In a small sandy village called Al-Nahda, 3 brothers lived with their mother Fatima. Their father had passed away, leaving them with his final advice: each of you has a special gift. Use it to make the world better. The eldest, Salim, believed money was the most important thing in life. Hakim, the middle brother, thought knowledge was the greatest treasure. Nadir, the youngest, believed in loyalty and hard work. After much talking, they decided to follow their own dreams and meet again in 5 years to share what they had learned. Early one morning, the brothers packed their things. Fatima gave each of them a scarf she had made. "This will remind you of home," she said. With heavy hearts, they hugged her goodbye. Salim headed to a city he had heard was full of riches. Hakim traveled far to find a land of great teachers and books. Nadir stayed behind to care for their farm and the village. As they disappeared into the horizon, Fatima whispered, "May they find their way back to each other." Salim reached the bustling city of Qaria, where merchants sold colorful spices, glittering jewels, and exotic animals. His sharp mind helped him become a skilled trader. He bought goods cheaply and sold them for a high price, and soon his wealth grew. Salim built a grand house with golden lamps and silk curtains. He wore fine clothes and ate the best food. But no matter how much he owned, he often felt empty inside. The people around him praised his riches, but he knew they only cared about his money. One evening, Salim stood on his balcony staring at the busy streets below. "I have everything I ever wanted," he thought. "So why do I feel so alone?" Hakim arrived in a faraway land where the streets were lined with libraries and scholars. He spent his days reading books and learning from the wisest teachers. He discovered the secrets of the stars, the stories of ancient kings, and the mysteries of life. People came to Hakim for advice, calling him the man who knows everything. But deep down, Hakim felt something was missing. His knowledge couldn't ease his loneliness. At night, he looked at the stars and thought about his family. What use is all this wisdom if I have no one to share it with, he wondered. One evening, a wise old teacher said, "Knowledge is a tool, not a treasure. It's only useful when it helps others." Hakim couldn't sleep that night thinking about those words. Nadir stayed in Al-Nahda, taking care of the family farm. He worked from sunrise to sunset, planting crops and fixing broken fences. The villagers admired his kindness and how he always helped those in need. But life wasn't easy. A drought dried up the village's wells and food became scarce. Nadir shared what little he had, even when it meant going hungry himself. The villagers looked up to him, but Nadir felt the weight of his responsibilities. At night, he would sit under the stars thinking about his brothers. "I hope they're happy," he said to himself, but deep down, he wished they were there to share the burden. 5 years later, the brothers returned to Al-Nahda. Salim arrived with camels loaded with gold and jewels. Hakim carried books and scrolls filled with his knowledge. Nadir, though he had little, greeted them with open arms. That night, they sat together under the stars. Salim bragged about his wealth. Hakim spoke of the wisdom he had gained. Nadir told them about the struggles of the village and how he had helped. As they talked, the brothers began to argue. Each believed his path was the most important. Their mother, Fatima, watched silently. "Have they forgotten what truly matters?" she thought. The next morning, a messenger brought troubling news. A nearby tribe was demanding the village's water supply. The villagers were scared and unsure of what to do. Salim said, "I will use my gold to pay them off." Hakim replied, "We should negotiate with them using reason and history." Nadir shook his head. "We must stand together and defend what is ours." The brothers couldn't agree, and their argument grew louder. Fatima stepped forward and said, "Strength doesn't come from wealth, wisdom, or work alone. It comes from unity. You must stand together." Determined to solve the problem, Salim took his treasures and went to meet the tribe's leader, Malik. "Take this gold and leave our village in peace," he said. Malik laughed. "Gold cannot buy our respect," he said. "We value strength and loyalty, not riches." Salim returned to the village, his head hung low. For the first time, he realized his wealth couldn't solve every problem. Hakim searched through his scrolls and found an old treaty between the village and the tribe. He showed it to Malik, saying, "Our people once worked together as allies. Let us honor this bond." Malik was intrigued but replied, "Words mean little without action." Hakim returned to the village frustrated. He realized that knowledge alone wasn't enough to bring peace. Nadir gathered the villagers and said, "We must stand united. Together, we are stronger than any tribe." He led them in preparing defenses and conserving water. The villagers followed him, inspired by his courage and determination. When Malik saw the unity of the village, he reconsidered. "These people are not weak," he said. "Perhaps we can find a way to share the water instead of fighting." The brothers worked together to rebuild the village's strength. Salim used his wealth to provide tools and resources. Hakim taught the villagers new ways to store and use water. Nadir continued to lead with honor and courage. The crisis passed, and the village thrived once more. The brothers realized that their greatest strength was not their individual gifts, but their bond as a family. Fatima smiled as she watched her sons working side by side. They had finally understood that unity was their true treasure,